Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles. Now, my guest today is Izzy. So, Isabella Damiris is a clinical psychologist based in Adelaide who provides therapy to older adolescents and adults through both telehealth and face-to-face. With a particular interest in anxiety and trauma, her passion lies in empowering individuals to navigate challenges and live fulfilling lives as their most authentic selves. Ooh, that sounds fantastic. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, Izzy. This is such a super special episode because we studied together in masters, or honours as well. And so I'm very excited to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm loving being able to connect with you, and I always love our chat, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see what we chat about. I've got so much to ask you. We studied together. We did honours together, and I feel like that year was such a blur. I don't remember a lot of it. But tell me what you can remember of it, because I don't know what your experience was like on the whole. Tell me a bit about your psych journey, because you've just become a clinical psych, endorsed in a clinical psych. Hey.
Yeah. Well, my journey is a little bit interesting in that I'll go back to the start with my undergrad. When I first chose to do a Bachelor of Psych, I really didn't know that I wanted to be a psych at all. I'm a very logical person. And for me at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I just figured, like, well, it sounds interesting. And also, if I don't like it, it's not a waste. Like, I thought it's very easy to diversify after doing a Bachelor of Psych. Like, I thought I could do a master's in teaching, a master's of business, or something like that. So it's sort of like hedging my bets of, like, I might like this, but I might not like this, and I hate to waste time or waste money. So I'll just do this and see if I like it. And actually, after my first year, I struggled a bit with my first year of psych, and I think I had a bit going on personally, and it made it really difficult to study and, like, do my best, which was a little bit challenging as a bit of a perfectionist. So then I took a year off because I was like, oh, I don't know if it's for me. Like, I'm not doing as well as I'd like to. And so I just took a year off and sort of spent some time, did a bit of travel and, like, focused on myself. And then once I was in a better headspace, I thought I'd give it another go. And then when I went back, I just loved it. Like, I was so into it, and I thought, God, this is so fascinating, and I'm just learning so much, and it's so diverse, all the things I can learn about. So yeah, I thought it was amazing. And then we met in honours, but I feel like we were literally just past each other so intermittently. And I guess that's a good example of what honours kind of is. It's so self-directed, and I feel as though you spend probably a lot less time with your colleagues or, like, peers, because everyone's working on their thesis. And so
Yeah,
you're literally
exactly.
just grinding, like, just spending any spare
It
second.
was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're so right that you kind of pass each other, and it wasn't that same. Yeah, maybe I didn't really ever have that sense of like camaraderie because I did mine all like bit by bit. But that's interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't think I realized that you did it and then you took a bit of a time off. But it's interesting
Yeah.
how that space allowed you to come back and see things a bit differently, or you're just in a different mind space that you
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think I felt really nervous to take a break. I think I had at the time this idea of, like, oh, you have to just keep studying. Like, if you stop, you'll lose momentum. And if you start earning better money because you're working more, like, you'll be hard to give it up and go back. So I was a little bit worried to do it, but I'm so glad that I did, because ultimately, like, I would have been a far worse student and a far unhappier version of myself, which
Yeah.
is ultimately, like, the most important thing. And yeah, so it's just a great example of listening to your intuition. And sometimes it's a bit daunting following what you think is right if you're not sure if it's going to be the right thing. But I guess everything works out in the end, or at least in my situation, it did.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we do live in, I don't know, it's like a cultural thing or a societal thing that, yeah, it's like if you take time off, it's thought of as maybe a negative thing. Or like even I've been thinking about this recently about the idea of giving up and how that
Mm,
equates with failure, but like not
yes.
necessarily because might be getting something better, or like in your case, like having that bit of space allowed you to move on to better things. And so I think it's a
Yeah.
really interesting idea and a nice thing to reflect on or talk about.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
And tell me, there's so many different like answers to this question, but what do you love the most about psych?
Oh my gosh, where do I begin? Like, I'm super passionate about psych. Obviously, you know that about me. I think that, as I said before, like being someone who's super curious and like fascinated by people, it's really just the perfect job for me because you meet all kinds of people from all different walks of life with such unique experiences. And for me, that's just so enjoyable, really. Like it fulfills kind of my own needs in that way
Yeah.
of
Yeah, for
being
sure.
interesting, and not boring, which I
Yeah.
love. And I think just
Yeah.
because I'm naturally like a really non-judgmental person, it sort of creates a really safe space where people can just talk about anything and everything, and it's very reciprocal because they're loving that they can talk about whatever, and I'm just there for it, and I'm loving it because I'm fascinated, I'm interested in it. Yeah, so I think it's just great, and I think also, like, I love learning. I've always been a learner, and I'd love to be a learner for the rest of my life. Like, there's so much to learn in psych. It's basically never ending, which can also be daunting at times because it's like if it was a pie
Yeah.
chart, like all the things you don't know versus the things you do know, and despite putting in so many hours, it still doesn't shift
Yeah.
much because it's just never
Exactly.
ending.
It's so true. And like it just doesn't end. And it's like that whole, Dunning-Kruger thing. Like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And it's
Yes.
like never ending imposter syndrome or like self-doubt or something. But I feel like you don't strike me as someone who would experience imposter syndrome. I remember you've always someone that's very, I don't know what you call it. You're very like logical, very practical. You get things done. And I feel like, I don't know, there's something about it there that I feel like you wouldn't really struggle a lot from imposter syndrome.
I definitely have, like, but I would argue that psychs experience like massive imposter syndrome in my experience, like talking to my colleagues and friends, like it's huge. Like it's something that we all experience at times. So maybe comparatively, I might experience a bit less of that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that is. I think that, let me think about that. Why is that? I think that having the understanding that we don't have to be perfect is really important. And like being able to lean into the imperfection or the mistakes or the silliness or the humanness of us really allows you to not feel as pressured by not being enough or not being good enough, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. A very wise realization to have, but not necessarily just like cognitively know that, but to like fully understand that and feel that and believe that. I think it's such an important thing to have that. And it's something that I for sure am starting to like be able to listen to or to look at, which is something I've always realized. Be like, oh yeah, we're human, we're allowed to make mistakes. But I feel like I've been like, oh, but I'm not allowed to make
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mistakes.
Totally. I know exactly what you mean. You're like, oh yeah,
And
anyone else can do anything and I'll see their point of view. Don't, it's fine. But then me, no, no,
no,
never.
no, no. That's what I'm meant to, know everything or be able to. Oh my gosh, like so many times I've come to supervision and talked to my supervisor about something, and I've come to the realization, or she's been like, Caitlin, you can't change someone's whole view in a few sessions. It's not how it
It's
works.
not
And I
possible.
think, oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I, for some reason, have this, it's something there about the whole pressure. But I've definitely got a bit better with that, with the human element. And that's, I think, sometimes what makes people enjoy therapy is seeing their therapist as a human. Like a,
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that 100%. I think as well that what you just said that makes me realize how important to have a great supervisor is as well. Like someone who you can be yourself and actually say, "Oh, I'm really struggling with this," or like, "I don't know what I'm doing," or "I said the wrong thing," and to not feel judged or critiqued by that, and just for them to go, "Okay, well, yeah, that happens sometimes," and maybe you could try this. And it just is such a great example of like, oh, actually, yeah, it's okay. Like this is part of the experience. And also I think the thing is if we're so scared to take chances because we're so desiring of being perfect, it actually ends up limiting our growth, I guess, personally, but also professionally, because you don't take risks with new things.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, when you're learning anything new, it's a risk, right? Because like, oh,
Yeah.
what if it doesn't work? Or
What
they
if?
see through me that I don't know what I'm doing or something like that.
For sure. It's such, yeah, exactly. Like it is a risk and it's like that courage you've got to take to have like the leap into a space you like are unknown and it could, yeah, like completely flop or it could be like incredible and be like the thing that your patient needs to hear or something like that.
Yeah,
But then I
absolutely.
wonder even like if you get it wrong, and this is something that I've allowed myself to start celebrating when I say something and it's not right. And then my patients, if they can correct me, like you used to be like, oh shit, I'm a terrible therapist for not getting it right. But now I'm like, how amazing that like they're able to trust me enough to say, no, that's not right. But then
Yes.
also to let them have that self-discovery and maybe that saying whatever I said, it's a sparked something in them and like it might not be correct, but it's allowed them to at least wonder.
Yes. Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. It's like we're uncertain, so we've said, "Oh, is it maybe it's like this or something like that?" And then in them hearing us say it this way, they go, "Oh, it's not that." And so when they
Mm,
say, "Oh, no, it's not that, it's this," it's like extra confirmation for them how they really feel about the situation or what they're really thinking, and so great for the relationship that you can go, "Oh, like thank you for correcting me on that." Like I feel like I understand it so much better. I think that's so
mm.
cool.
It is. Yeah. That's so interesting, like, the whole relationship thing, what you're saying about supervision, and that's been one of the most transformational things I think for me is, yeah, like having therapy, but then also having a supervisor who I can bring any of the shit that I've told my supervisor. Like, and yeah, she's just
Yes.
like I could literally tell her anything and it would be fine. But
Yeah.
I have had, I don't have to talk about it. I definitely have some experiences of supervision as supervised with supervisors that have been quite harmful for me. And I don't think it wasn't until I had my current supervisor, which allowed myself to even look at, acknowledge about how harmful some of the things were for me. And not to say that the supervision was bad or anything, but I think it's really important, like therapists, it's important to have a therapist that maybe can sit with you and maybe acknowledge your temperament or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a relationship, right? Like, and it does come down to fit. Like, you have to fit your supervisor and they have to fit and work with you. So I think that's so true. And not just, yeah, accepting if you are having a supervisory relationship that's not working or you're not feeling safe to be honest and transparent and yourself to be like, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with them, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. Perhaps we're not the right fit for one another because
Yeah.
it's essential, isn't it, to find someone who you can be yourself with and gets you.
Exactly. Again, yeah, exactly. I get you. And yeah, it comes back to that non-judgmental thing, like being able to say anything, which we like psychologists always bang on about that. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily have that, if that makes sense. And I'm not shit, I
Yeah.
don't want to shit talk people, but I don't know. It's just something I've noticed recently. Maybe I'll edit that part out, but it's just, yeah, I don't
No,
know.
I
It's an
think
interesting
like
thing.
that's absolutely true though. And we can see it because we work at like, yeah, maybe edit this out, but like, we can see it with our clients because we just get so much data on the way people work and the way people, and there's so much judgment towards other people. And it's just the way we are, right? We're social beings. And from like a sociological perspective, there's thoughts on that and like, why we do the way, and yeah, like social psychology, like why we do that. There's so much to it. So I think it does take a really unique disposition to be able to just sit with something, just be curious, like,
Yeah.
that's interesting, even though it's different to me, rather than being like, oh, the different is wrong or weird, being like, oh,
Yes.
it's different.
Like,
That's interesting.
yeah. Well, it's like the antidote to that is like, yeah, we might be judgmental because we're human beings who may have to make judgments. It's like how our brain is, but the antidote to that is like the curiosity, like, oh wow, that's interesting. Say more about that rather than like
Yeah.
recoiling
Yes.
and
Yes. Yeah, I
like
don't want to talk
horror.
about it because it
I
makes
don't
me
wanna,
uncomfortable.
yeah, exactly. Like, oh dear. We've covered a little bit about of this, I think, already. But how has your clinical practice evolved? So like when we were doing seeing our first patients in clinic and like being down in the clinic and Printing off
so
our little
much.
worksheets and everything. How has your
Literally, oh
work
my
evolved
god.
now? Because you have your own business, which is very cool.
Yes. Yes. A lot. Like a lot. It sort of ties back to what you were saying before about imposter syndrome. And I think I want to say this in case there's any psych students listening to it, that the first time I saw my first client, I don't know that she was aware of it, but I was literally shaking. You know what I mean? Like I was so physically nervous, and I had no real reason to be other than the fact that it's something new and like it's so important and you've put so much work into being here and you want to be good at what you're doing. But it's so nerve-wracking at first because you've literally never done it before. Even though you've talked to like tens of thousands of people in your life, it just feels different. So I would say when I first started out, I had a lot more nerves than I do now because it's just new. And it's like remembering that the more you do something, the easier it gets, to the point where it's not something that's nerve-wracking at all anymore. And at the time, it's very hard to imagine that as a possibility. You're like, oh my God, it's going to be like, what if it's like this forever? Like, you know, and I'm always nervous. I can't live my life like this every day. But then just over time, like it's just not nerve-wracking anymore. Like it's just
Yeah.
natural and it comes easily and it's comfortable and it's fun and it's tricky and all other feelings. So I think that's definitely something that's evolved naturally, which makes sense. Another thing would be when I first started, I probably was very manualized, like in my treatment. And that also comes from nerves, right? Because you're not sure
Yeah,
exactly
it's
what
very
you're doing
containing
yet.
to have a thing structure.
Yeah. Yeah, to be like, okay, so session one, I'll do this, and session two, I'll do this, and so on and so forth. So I think that was fine at the time because it, as you said, it was very containing and allowed me to learn like a lot of the basic skills and sort of like counseling skills, and also like a lot of CBT as well. So I probably maybe like a little bit more rigid at the time versus now, like I'm definitely more eclectic. Like I draw from lots of different therapeutic interventions, picking and choosing is what's appropriate, and recognizing that even though some of them have very different theoretical backgrounds or frameworks, they can work in cohesion with one another. So I think that's a massive difference. What else? Yeah, I mean, like I do a lot of schema therapy now. Like that's one of my major passions. I'm super
Yeah.
into it, as you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, but say more about that and about schema therapy and like what do you draws you to it and all of that.
Yeah. So a bit of like the background on schema therapy. It was developed by Jeffrey Young, sort of in response to his observations that a lot of people at the time who had been doing a lot of CBT or had done quite a bit of CBT on and off sort of were coming back, still experiencing symptoms. So it's sort of like these clients who are experiencing like persistent, recurrent mental health difficulties despite having undergone like quite a bit of treatment. And so he basically evaluated them and sort of evaluated CBT a little bit of like, oh, what's missing here? Like, why are some people getting better and sort of thriving after treatment and others sort of continue to experience these difficulties? And he sort of like recognized that maybe one of the things that's lacking in CBT is the fact that it's very present focused, you know, and doesn't draw much influence from the past. So schema therapy is super eclectic. Like it brings a lot of different sort of like parts from different therapies, like a bit of psychodynamic stuff, a bit of like Gestalt stuff, a bit of CBT stuff, parts work, like heaps of different things. So I think what I like about it the most is that it's present focus, but it's also past focus. So that really resonates well with me.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes when I'm just doing very present focused work, I feel as though I'm missing like a piece of the puzzle, like the past, like childhood
Yeah, it's something
stuff
like
and
a key
trauma.
to
And
it, right? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like to make sense of
exactly.
but schema therapy is very cool. I remember when we were doing our lectures and things and that I think a lot of people had some really eye-opening moments from it, even just filling out that like young questionnaire. I think
Yes.
people were like, oh wow, I am a perfectionist or that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Like we're all perfectionists.
We're all
We all have
perfectionists,
unrealistic
like,
standards.
but maybe and that's where the judgy thing comes in with is like because that's the other side of unrelenting standards, isn't it? Like the critical element. isn't it? Or maybe I'm just making shit up. I
Well,
don't know.
well, I think what you're touching on, like people with unrelenting standards often have like a very strong demanding parent mode, just sort of like that voice in our head or the part of ourselves that's very, very demanding and puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. So I don't know exactly how that relates to like judgment of others, but it certainly relates to judgment of ourselves.
Selves, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just maybe I probably made it up. I don't know.
So many things in our head.
There's so many things in our head. No, but yeah, schema therapy is it's cool. And a lot of people that we studied with have gone into schema therapy, haven't they?
Yeah. I feel super grateful. We had a lecturer who was really into it
Yeah,
and
very
really
into it.
went really out of his way. Like I think even outside of class times, he hosted like a half day or maybe even a
That's
full
right, yeah.
day session on like schema therapy 101 and like put so much effort into making the resources and having us do experiential techniques on each other. And it just really, it's like he planted a seed and then instead of just letting it sit there and allowing us to have to sort of take that next step and do it all on our own, which would have been really hard at that time because you're still so fresh, he really put the effort into like watering it and nourishing, I guess, that metaphorical garden. Yeah, and to know now that so many of our cohort like now does a lot of schema therapy, which I think is just amazing. It shows the influence of lecturers and teachers.
Yeah, that's so true. I hadn't thought about that because I, in terms of like the connection there with, yeah, like our lecturer who did that, probably because I liked it, but it wasn't really something that I was like, yes, I'm definitely going to do this thing. But yeah, that makes
Yes.
so much sense. But anyway, you just triggered a memory then when we were doing that workshop, and I remember you were imagery rescripting me. Remember? And
Yeah, I do. I do. Oh my
I like was
gosh.
like burst into
Heavy.
tears, and I'm like sobbing.
Yeah.
Like,
That's so it though, isn't it? Like that's the whole point. And it's intense because yeah, what a great example. Like, because that's like so much of masters. You're just doing things on each other like all the time. So many role plays, so many practicing on each other because we're just desperate to practice. And prior to that, like everything would have been very logical, right? Like very not emotional. Like for the most part, I would say you're sort of just reflecting on your thoughts and a little bit on your feelings and stuff like that, but very, cognitive work. And then we was like, okay, let's try this. And it's probably really down to him a lot that he gave us the confidence to do that. He's like, yeah, so this is how you do it. This is step one. This is step two. Do it. And we're just like,
yeah.
okay. And so we just do it. And then we're like, oh my God, I'm like just connected with this really significant childhood thing that happened. And I feel all these things now. And like, oh, so I thank you for being vulnerable in that time, like allowed me, because it did allowed me an opportunity to learn with that. Like, had you been sort of like, I guess, in like a detached protector mode or like really not connected with your feelings, it would have been not the same. So that really comes down to your vulnerability there. And so nice for our friendship as well to be able to connect
No,
on that
definitely. I
way.
felt
Yeah.
very comfy with you, which I think speaks to like how you are as a therapist. But yeah, I definitely do have a detached protector mode. Like, yeah,
Me too.
for sure. That's a big, big thing. Yeah, it's
I
it's
wonder
a
if
struggle.
at times that can be helpful in our work, even maybe to sometimes be able to detach a little bit from stuff if something's really, really
Yeah,
heavy or really big,
heavy.
to be able to detach from it
Yes.
just a little bit in like a adaptive way, I suppose, until it's safe and like appropriate to deal with
To
it.
deal with it, yeah, rather than having it consume you so much and be unstable for you. Because I think a lot of the time, yeah, with what I've noticed is I need to feel comfortable in session. I need to be like contained as well. Like, and so I think there are multiple things that help with that. I was just when you were talking about earlier about when you first did your first session and you were shaking and nervous and all of that. I just
Mm-hmm.
think about like every time, even still when I do an intake with a new person, I'm so anxious and I have to have my
Mm-hmm.
notebook there. I don't ever really write anything down because I don't really
Yeah.
write notes ever. But it's just there for me, really, just to, like hold on
Yes.
to it and
It's a
like
little
have that
safety
thing.
behavior.
Yes, a little safety behavior for sure. But I think before no, maybe not like in certain things, I probably would have thought like, oh, I should be able to push through, or like I shouldn't have to feel comfortable in a certain amount of area. Even like with my chair and things like that, I've realized like how important it is to be comfy.
Yes.
which isn't something I necessarily realized how important that was. And it's like one of the key things I've learnt, which seems like such a
Yes.
silly thing. Like, you want to be comfortable. It's like, of course,
No.
but
Yeah.
it probably just speaks to my own like self-sacrificing parts, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's just it. Like we're all just learning, aren't we? Learning what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And the worst thing you can do is get repeated information given to you. Like, for example, I'm not comfortable with this presentation or this age demographic or this something or this room or this lighting or something like that. And it's not comfortable for me. I'm not doing my best work. And then just to ignore it and just go, oh, well, it just is what it is. Like, no, that's us learning what we need and what makes us do our best job. Like, we have to attune to that and actually act on that, even if it means buying a super expensive chair.
Yes. That's it.
Sending it off to the tax department, like, yeah, it was absolutely essential.
It was absolutely necessary. They're like, so
They're like,
funny.
what? It's $40,000.
You're like, yep, it was
Yeah,
custom
I
made.
needed it.
But yeah, like apparently Freud had that was the thing. He had a custom chair made for him, and because my supervisor was telling me this recently, it's because he wanted to be able to read in his chair, like with his legs over the seat thing and like
Yes.
lie in this really weird position. And he wanted to be comfortable doing that. And I don't know, maybe he did that when like people were reassociating. I don't know. But yeah, that was like a thing. And so it kind of goes back to him as well about that element of, I don't know, being comfy as well, which I thought was
Love
like a
comfy.
fascinating.
Comfy is important.
It is.
In every area of life.
I know. Yeah, it was just I was just thinking then about like something I also had to modify from masters was like learning that I can wear anything I want, and like it's more
Yeah.
important about me being comfy
Yes.
and feeling okay, which is
I think that's an
plus
interesting
life.
one. Like we've spoken about that a lot. Just how do I explain it? Like the somewhat self-imposed, somewhat imposed idea of having to be a certain person or like having to be a certain type of person, like very, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but like, how do I describe that? Like very, yeah, I suppose like detached and a bit
Yeah.
rigid and like
Blank slate.
very blank slate. Yeah, in terms of like, yeah, you like your affect and the way you sit, the way you speak, the way you dress, kind of having to be a little bit nothing so that way there's so much space for the client to be anything they want to be. And even now, I don't know that I struggle with that as nowhere near as much as I did before because like I'm so much more comfortable these days than I was when I first started out. And like I talk like myself and I swear in session. I think it is an interesting conversation about like psychs needing, like there's so much importance to like professional boundaries. And like that's really like drilled into you around the importance of ethics, which is of course super important. But like I think sometimes it makes us feel scared to just be ourselves sometimes, even when there's no
Yeah.
harm that can be caused from that. Like,
Yeah. So true. Like that somehow we've equated being and nothing. You've got to be like, strip away all of your identity for some reason to, I don't know, be an ethical person. Like somehow
yeah,
that's been conflated, which is a curious thing because, we're allowed to be human. That's my big thing because I think I was for sure in masters, particularly, I always felt like I didn't fit in. And I think that's just like a
hmm,
general theme of my life, but it really got flared up in masters and
yeah,
like, having
yes,
to try and be this psychologist image that was,
yes.
taught to us.
Serious all the time and
Yeah,
analyzing all the time. And yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Having to like
Completely
fold
agree.
so much back in, which of course we do have to hold things in, but I wonder sometimes that's sometimes at the detriment of the patient, I think, not showing our humanity.
And the relationship,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like with what we know from the research, like most therapeutic outcomes come from the relationship, the patient or client,
Yeah.
psychologist or counselor, whatever relationship. So it's reciprocal and it goes both ways. Like if we're not being our authentic self with limits, obviously, and boundaries, obviously, I feel like that's a barrier to
Yeah,
actually creating this really
it is.
genuine relationship, which
Yeah,
is super important.
for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it is so true about that. Sorry, I'm like, cold speaking. Speaking of,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's an interesting like conversation. I could talk about that. I'm just like mindful of not like shitting. I'm like, this isn't supervision. I can't like shit talk. Like,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
we can
what
talk
I
about it. You can cut it out if you
we,
want.
yeah. No, it's all right. Like that's just interesting when you're talking about like supervision and like the stuff that it's been really helpful in supervision is just to like be able to lay it all out and be like, they told me this. And my supervisor's like, fuck, like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like, and that's been
Yeah.
so helpful for me. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, but yeah, that's just me having a little tantrum, I think.
But like honestly, like not to go in the thing, but between us, like I still struggle with that sometimes of knowing where the line is because I'm getting so much more comfortable and like just being myself. I'm like, I swear, and I'm just me in a lot of ways. And then sometimes when I do it too much, I'm like, oh, am I being too much? And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think so. Like, I just am myself. Like, I can't not be myself. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's
exactly.
distracting to not
Yeah,
be myself. It's another thing I'm doing that actually takes you further away from what's going on in the room.
so true. Yeah, exactly. Like having to, it's another thing you've got to attend to. Like, oh, am I like being a good therapist? And what does a good therapist do? And like, oh, I shouldn't be sitting like
Yes.
this. Like,
Yes.
and
All right.
I think we've talked a little bit about this, but what, if anything, is there that you wish you knew before starting your psych journey or even masters?
Ooh, okay. I would say that it gets easier. Like, I think that to become a psychologist is like a really long journey, really difficult, very challenging, and like really tests you a lot of the time. And I think that when you finally get the opportunity to do the clinical work, or at least in my experience, things start to slot into place. And it really does feel like, in my experience, it was all worth it, even though, yeah, really challenging at times to go through all those years of study and like the competitive nature of it and like having to push yourself so hard and like make sacrifices in a lot of ways as well. So for me, I wish it would have been good to know at that time if I could look back and talk to my younger self like, oh, it's going to happen for you. So just keep going. And also then it will get easier. Like it's just such a steep learning curve once you start doing the clinical work that sometimes it feels a bit like, oh, will this get easier? But it does. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, the more confident you get, the more fun you can have, the more you learn about yourself. Like it's just amazing. I'm like a massive advocate for working as a psychologist because I love it so much. And I think as well to remember that really everyone does experience imposter syndrome, and that if you are experiencing imposter syndrome, you're 1,000% not alone in that. Like I can guarantee you anecdotally from all the people I've ever known who are psychs that they've experienced imposter syndrome and still do at times. So it's kind of inevitable. So it's just getting used to that and learning how to overcome that, learning
Yeah.
how to cope with it.
And like
Yeah.
that it does get easier in a way. And like, yeah, the imposter syndrome for sure. I think, yeah, it's an interesting like one with the imposter syndrome. Like, do you think there's a link with perfectionism, isn't there? Like imposter syndrome, or is perfectionism a type of imposter syndrome?
I think they're sort of like very similar constructs. Like I think if
Mm.
you're perfectionistic, you're probably more likely to experience imposter syndrome. I don't know if they're exactly the same thing, but I think that's probably pretty fair to say that they would be pretty closely related.
Oh,
It's
for
really
taking
like,
what you said
go.
when you were talking about like there's so much self-discovery, which I think is a big, big thing, which I don't think I ever realized I was signing up for.
Yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. You're just constantly being confronted with stuff, like your own stuff, dealing with other people's stuff, how their stuff triggers your stuff, things that you don't know, like particularly if you are very perfectionistic and like have always done really well academically or in various pursuits, like to not be perfect and to not know everything can be super confronting at times, but it's just inevitable. Like that's part of it. That's really what you're signing up for. And it really is just trying to get super comfortable with that, like getting super comfortable with feedback as well, learning to
Yes.
take feedback and hopefully constructive feedback, but trying not to take it personally and go, oh, like, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Like, that's a great way. Can I try and implement that? And obviously having the right people talking to you about that makes that a lot easier because of the way they say it and having a relationship with them. But I think that's super important as well.
Just constant feedback, isn't it?
It is.
So
It's a
much
super
learning
unique
is,
experience. Like, I'm trying to think of my life prior to that. I don't know that I ever experienced such amounts of feedback in such a massive
no.
amount, really.
Yeah.
Like, in school, you get your report cards intermittently, and then at work, I mean, I worked in hospitality before I was a psychologist. So, like, I never had a meeting. Like, I never had a performance review ever, really. So, and then you're just here and you're just always in like getting supervision all the time
All the
when you're
time.
learning, and all bits of feedback, and then asking your clients for feedback as well. I think that's a huge thing. Getting feedback from clients is super important, and implementing things once you recognize, oh, this is something I could improve upon, and just keeping things moving if you can. Like, if you try not to get stuck on something, if it's really challenging, like, not like in a suppressive way of like, oh, let's just get over it, but like, yeah, have supervision, talk to your psychologist about it, and work out like what's that about, like, why did that trigger me so much, and what's going on there, and work out a way to heal your inner child if that's what it is, or talk to yourself
Yeah.
kinder if that's what you need, or whatever it
That's
is.
it. Yeah, recognize
Mhm.
that it does affect us, and that's so normal that it affects us as well. In a
Yeah.
nice, in a
Literally.
good, in a good way though.
Literally.
Like it's a beautiful thing, the job that we have.
I
Yeah.
think, or before we move on, I just want to
You're right.
say as well how important it is to have a community. Like, I think that to have a community outside of psych is really important, like whether it's your family or friends or people who know you other than like Isabella, the psychologist, because that keeps you really grounded and like really allows you to maintain a version of yourself that isn't completely absorbed in the work, which I think is really important, but also having a community who are like psychs or mental health or allied health, or because it's just so amazing to be able to call someone up like yourself, or the friends that we share, and say, oh, I had a really hard day, or this is going on, or just those little bits of peer consultation and getting support from one another is so important, particularly when you're learning, but also afterwards. Like, I am so grateful for that. And I think that we were so lucky. I felt we had such a close cohort with really deep, genuine relationships. And that's obviously not a given. And I feel so grateful for that, because like, it's such a vulnerable position to be in, and you're all learning so much and triggered by things, and, like, stress to the max, and all those things, and then to have people to be able to sort of connect with and understand what you're going through is just so, so important, in my opinion.
I agree with that so much. Like having people around that get it as well. Like particularly this is something a bit different about now, like psych and being a health professional anyway, like having, ethics and like having to be a professional as well. It's
Yes.
and so
Yeah.
people that get it. And yeah, you're right. We were so lucky, weren't we? Like our group of people, we all were so close and yeah, it was a really nice thing to have, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was really good. And it just made me like think also of like my master's research about like how it was, like in the little groups. And I was so
Hmm.
probably really, really lucky. It was probably because of the group that we had and like friendship with everyone that I
Yes.
probably could do my research. Like everyone was so
Yes.
busy, but you all like dedicated like 2 hours a week or something, which is a huge amount of time, like in masters to do my like research project, which I like I'm
We
so
loved
grateful
it.
for. It's,
It was such a beautiful experience. It was so
it's so,
nice.
yeah, I'm very grateful for that. But in that note, how has non-clinical and non-psych stuff impacted your work?
I feel that I'm probably a bit less creative than you. Like, I know you've got all your little side hustles and things like that going on that have like not a lot to do with psych, which I think is just so amazing, so cool. So I don't know that I'm exactly the same as you in that way, but I think that in general, having a really well-rounded life outside of work, psych work, or just any work is like absolutely essential. And I think that if you can find things that are good for your stress relief, like for me, for example, I do pottery, and I've just started sewing. Actually, I'm terrible, but I'm learning.
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah,
it's a hard. That's
it
so
is
awesome.
tricky, but that's practical. So you look at the practicality coming in me. I'm like, well, then I can hem my clothes, but save money on alterations. But yeah, I think that having those things that you do outside of work that have nothing to do with work are super important because it manages your stress and it really allows you to separate yourself from the profession. Like, I think that understanding it's kind of tricky because becoming a psych takes so much of your time, energy, thought, everything that you can sometimes find yourself like really enmeshed with it. And I actually
Yeah.
don't know that that helps necessarily because like we are people and also, you know, in the best case scenario, we hopefully have a long life ahead of us and a long career ahead of us. And I don't know that it's sustainable if that's your everything and you just go home and do more work or do more study or do more because it's never ending. So you could
Yeah,
do
never
that
ends.
for the rest of your life and still not know everything and still not be quote unquote like the best. So I think that it's really important to tend to your own emotional needs and if it's creative needs and relationships so that way you're your best self as well because then you'll turn up as the best psychologist that you can be.
Yeah, exactly. And still be able to have, I think I love what you said about like separate, having like an identity
Yeah.
outside of psychology or outside of psychologists and being able to be your true human self. And it probably even speaks to something like you were saying at the start about when you were in undergrad and had to take, you were like not liking it, but then you had to take that year off and it sounded like you had a beautiful time, like discovering a little bit about yourself and having that space. I think that speaks to a huge amount of like the importance of that, having an idea about who you are outside of psychology, which is a bit of a scary thing for some. Like,
Yes.
not all of us have a lot out of it, which I'm talking too much about myself. But yeah, that was the thing that I realized. It's like, shit, I don't have anything outside of psychology. I'm like, I'm a psychologist, and like, what else am I?
Yeah.
It was a really confronting thing.
It's
It's like,
confronting. Yeah.
but
Ideal, you know what I mean? Because we're more than that. Like it's a really big part of us. Can't deny that, obviously. Like when you put that amount of time into something and you care so deeply about it, of course it becomes a really strong part of you. But we had a full life beforehand
yeah,
and it feels weird to completely discard that or like stop evolving that non-psychologist version of ourselves. Like for me, it doesn't really make sense because at the same time, like it's going to sound super philosophical, but like also nothing's guaranteed in life. Like this is still our life to live. I don't know if non-psychs would understand this. It might seem a bit like big, but because we do put so much into it sometimes, like you can just become completely absorbed in it. And what is that question you asked yourself? It's like a little bit of an act-based kind of question. Like if you died, what would you want people to say about you at your funeral? Or like if you were dying, how would you look back on your life? And I feel like I'd feel certainly super grateful for my profession and for my career and very fulfilled in it. But at the same time, if I didn't have relationships outside of it and hobbies outside of it and memories outside of it and all these other really important things, I don't know that that would be enough while it's still being super happy and fulfilling as well. It's like both things being true at the same time.
exactly. Like there's more out there and more to life than work. And not to say, I think enjoying work is super, super important. That's something that I really believe. But yeah, having stuff outside of that as well, and like what type of life you want to have and lead, and it's such important questions to think about. But it can be quite confronting, and like there's a bit of grief there if like you're realizing for the first time, like I don't have a lot outside of what I do in my work. It's quite hard to
Yeah.
realize that, and like there is that bit of uncomfortable feeling, like maybe a bit of mourning or got to process that a bit. But then I
Yes.
think once you get to the other side and like you can do other things, you just realize how full and big your life is. Like opens up world. But I
No,
think
I
it's
love
true.
it. It does. It's what I said before. Like, I'm getting a little bit philosophical. I don't know if it's that deep, but it does feel deep for me. I don't know. It's just my lived experience. That's all I can say. It's hectic. Like, honestly, masters, like the whole journey can be really intense. And then naturally you can really easily transition into just being super like a workaholic because you're just conditioned to do it because you're so used to being busy and so used to learning all the time and using all your spare time to upskill. And so it's actually really easy to make that kind of a transition if you don't have other stuff to occupy your time with, especially if you're super passionate and you love it. it can feel like, oh, well, why won't I just keep learning and keep doing more and more and more and more and more, which is obviously important. And we have our CPD requirements and peer consultation requirements and all that stuff as well. So we'll always be learning. That's a guarantee as long as you want to have your registration.
But there can be other things outside of that as well, which just as much like nourish us. I think it's an important thing. Oh, I've loved our conversation. It's so nice to connect with you like this. But I was curious,
Always.
what do you hope that people take away from listening to this convo?
I hope that people take away that studying psych is a marathon, not a sprint, and taking care of yourself and having an identity outside of it is extremely important, and that it's also okay if your journey takes a different turn for whatever reason, that it usually works out in the end, at least in my experience, and that if you are interested in psych and you feel it will be a good career or profession for you, to give it a go, because it honestly is like one of the most fulfilling, meaningful, and great parts of my life. So I think that the world can really benefit from amazing, really passionate psychologists. And yeah, I just am such an advocate for the career and for the profession.
Oh, that's so nice. I think, yeah, it's an important message because sometimes it can be like the hard stuff can feel so hard and so heavy. And so I think it, even just that in itself, it's so important to realize like what you like about it. To have people like you who are such advocates for the profession is a great thing. It's a gift that you have.
Yeah. And
Nice.
also finding balance. Because, like, honestly, I noticed that if I work too much, like if I work crazy hours and, as we said, like lose touch with the other things important in my life, like my satisfaction goes down as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing as well, is finding the right balance that allows you to be, yeah, your best version of self and still feel really happy at work.
Yeah. That elusive. So I think that you can, yeah, find out whatever that balance is for sure. All right, now we've come to that part of the interview, which is the rapid fire questions. So tell me, what is the most boring fact about you, Izzy?
The most boring fact about me, let me think. Okay, I feel like this is an interesting bit weird, but pretty boring as well, so it might be right. Any food that has like two components to it, for example, like pizza where you've got like the crust and then you've got like the topping bit, or like a sandwich where you've got the crust and then you've got like the filling bit, or anything like that where there's like two major components. Instead of eating it like for pizza front to back or with the sandwich filling to crust, I eat it bit by bit, kind of like I'll take a bite of the crust, bite of the topping, bite of the crust, bite of the topping, and something like that. So with anything where there's like different components where they have different like textures or parts of it, I like to get a bit of everything in every bite.
Love that. Mine's quite similar. I don't know why thought it was funny. But yeah, mine's a similar. I either have to eat the crust first, but like a pizza or anything really. It's crust first, and then because I want to save the best bit for last.
Yes,
Well, what's
yes.
it with you? Why do you do that? But now I'm gonna like be psychoanalyzing this.
Yeah. I think for me, it's not like a part of it's better and the other part's worse, because I totally get that. And I know a lot of people like that with food. It's like, for most of them, I like it all. And so I want to be getting all of it in every bite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then I'll
So
feel
yeah.
disappointed. Like if the crust was left last me, I'll probably be like, oh. Or if it was just the toppings at the end, I'd be like, oh. Like I just want the whole thing all the
You want to
time.
enjoy it all the
Yeah.
I love it. So interesting. What is your favorite film and your favorite character?
My favorite movie is Almost Famous. And my favorite character is, I can't remember her name, but it's the sister. I just love her spirit and her tenacity.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that film before. Another one I'll have to add to my list. But what about a concert that you'll never forget?
A concert that I'll never forget would be when I saw Ed Sheeran when I was 17 in Brisbane, and he was my favorite artist at the time, and I cried. It moved me so much. It was such a special moment.
No way. Ed Sheeran at 17. Yeah, that would have been very special for sure. He's got some real catchy tunes, honestly. If I ever see a film clip of his, I'm like, can't get the songs out of my head, so he's doing something right. What about an absurd thing that you love?
And an absurd thing that I love, it's not absurd to me, but I love salt and vinegar chips and I'll eat them until my tongue burns. So for people who don't love salt and vinegar chips or eat chips in a normal way, it might seem a bit absurd, but it's pretty normal for me.
Oh my God, yes, the salt and vinegar chippies. That's a classic Izzy. But how can people get in contact with you? Because you've been blogging lately, haven't you?
People can find me at my website, www.bella, B-E-L-L-A, vida, psychology.com.au, which stands for Beautiful Life Psychology. And yeah, I've got a blog on there where I just write about topics that I'm really passionate about. I work mostly with people experiencing anxiety and trauma, but also other things as well, and do a lot of like ACT, CBT, a lot of schema work as well. So if those things are of interest to you, you can always have a look, or if you have any clients you think might be a good fit, you can pass along my information. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And because I think the cool thing about podcasts are that they stay up for ages and they've got a nice long shelf life because you want to do supervision, like be a supervisor potentially in the future.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. That's something I'm thinking of doing maybe next year, doing my supervisor training.
Yeah.
Because I just love, I'm hoping it's coming across in this episode, like I love psych, obviously. And I love supporting people in that. Like I love peer consultation and I love learning. I'm always learning. And I think you do learn through teaching as well. So yeah, that's something that I'll probably be doing in the next year or so, and really looking forward to that chapter as well.
Yeah, it's so exciting. You make such a fantastic supervisor. And
Thank you.
able to, because part of burnout is that like elements of like being cynical, and so I think having someone who is able to hold the hope in that supervisory relationship would be so important.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm
That's so
excited
kind.
to see where your journey, all your business journey and everything. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast and being brave and doing something different.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. I always love chatting with you, and I'm so happy to see where you're going and so happy that we've maintained our friendship.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much, Iz. All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.